Animal Crossing is usually such a nice game, but not today because I've created a brutal AI designed to aggressively rate islands that are sent to me by my YouTube chat. Its job is to rank these islands based on my careful descriptions of everything I see. It looks like a person with like their hand kind of over their face. Is it a facepalm flag? And first up is the island of Mochi. I'm gonna call it Maki, like Maki roll. This is already looking really adorable. This is very like city vibes. This is cool. I don't know at what point I should like start explaining it to Digby. I just want to kind of take it in right now. You've got a bike rack. I like that. And little car driving on the dirt there. This is interesting. So I don't know how Digby's gonna feel about this. And this is where I might actually bring him into this conversation. But before we do that, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, Seed. Seed is an upcoming life sim and management game that takes place 1,000 years in the future after the Earth as we know it is totally dead. Seed is kind of like The Sims, but in space, or another way I've seen it described is like a sci-fi Stardew Valley. Seed is a persistent life simulation that takes place in a massive single universe. And similar to Animal Crossing, this is a game that keeps going even when you're not playing it. Right now, Clang Games is inviting you to be part of their monthly play sessions. These are absolutely free, and Clang Games is going to be selecting a limited number of people to participate. And yes, there are a limited number of slots, but if you don't make this one, there's always the next one, and you'll have a better chance of getting into that one if you sign up now. This upcoming play session, though, is going to last between March 12th and April 2nd, 2024. Anyway, if you want to participate, check the link in the description below, because you're not only going to get a front row seat to see this game evolve over time, but you get to directly participate in the game's evolution. I will see you in Avesta. Now, back to the video. Okay, Digby, we're on the first island. It's pretty nice. It's got some city vibes mixed with some like kind of rustic farming vibes. There's a bike rack with 2 bikes tied up, and that's pretty cool. They're thinking about the safety of people's bike transport. But behind that, what's really interesting is there's a car kind of driving behind Nooks. It's like clear to me that this is a dirt road because you can see like the grass looks like it's kind of fading here. It's been driven on a number of times, but that's what we're seeing so far, just kind of, you know, settling into the island of Mochi. Oh, and I forgot to mention, AI Digby is way more concerned about safety than anything else, so he's actually going to issue fines every time an island has a perceived safety violation. This means that we're not only looking for the highest rated island, today's winner will also have needed to accumulate the least amount of fines.
Yes. The dual city and country vibe of Mochi is an interesting touch. I can see how it gives the island a unique character. And bike racks. Fantastic. They're an excellent safety feature to prevent bicycles from being stolen or causing a tripping hazard.
True, yeah.
However, I am a tad concerned about the car and this makeshift driveway near Nooks. Vehicles and pedestrians mingling can often lead to accidents. This constitutes a Class B vehicle routes infringement. The fine for this is 15,000 bells.
Yikes.
Oh, would anyone around here have a bowl of tarantula neck gravy? My throat's as dry as Sahara.
Okay, well now we're in kind of an outdoor eatery, and there's also a little puppy on one of the stools sitting, you know, by the table. I don't see its owner anywhere. A lot of different places to kind of eat and shop around here, as well as some benches and things to relax. It's pretty cool.
Oh, sounds like a lively area. Outdoor eateries are wonderful, but they present their own share of safety challenges. The little puppy on a stool is rather cute, but without its owner nearby, it does pose a potential risk of a pet-related incident,
Yikes.
especially in a food-serving area. This could warrant a Class D unattended pet violation, which carries a fine of 8,500 bells, I'm afraid. I am, however, overwhelmed with this thirst for KK Slider gravy right now.
All right, well, let's ignore that. Well, Digby, we've seen a good bit of the island. I'm kind of circling around, and I've come across a cabin up here on some lovely cliffs. It's surrounded by trees and has an adorable little wooden walkway, and there's like a fire pit. It's enclosed, so that's good. And nearby is some firewood, and there's also an axe hanging out, so I guess if you need to chop some more firewood, there's a convenient axe over here. Don't mention the axe. Why? It's a convenience. It's good to have an axe here so you can like chop more trees. I don't understand what the big deal is.
The cabin sounds quaint. The unattended fire pit and axe stand out to me as potential safety hazards.
It's fine.
Even if the fire pit is enclosed, it's imperative someone always supervise it when in use to prevent unintentional fires. And the axe, well, left unsupervised, it could lead to injuries. These two together form a Class A fire and sharp object mismanagement violation.
Oh my gosh.
That's a hefty fine of 60,000 bells. By the way, if there's any acorn barnacle gravy around, it might just quench this unending thirst.
Does anyone have any of that? All right, Digby, we're about to wrap up the tour. I just wanted to tell you about the Seaside Cinema. It is indeed a seaside cinema. It's outdoors. There's a giant picnic blanket and all kinds of places to sit down and have snacks and enjoy a movie by the sea. On the beach peninsula, there is a campsite, and there's a number of different tents and camping equipments as well. So I'm imagining people who are here on a camping trip probably really enjoy this cinema.
Oh, a seaside cinema? That does sound splendid. However, being outdoors, we need to think about the possibility of unpredictable weather. I would suggest some kind of shelter, or at least a planned evacuation route in case of severe weather. We're looking at a Class C no outdoor emergency backup plan violation, which incurs a fine of 20,000 bells.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about all this outdoor stuff just reminds me how desperately I want to have a sip of some peachy a la Isabel gravy.
Some what? You've seen a lot of areas on this island. You have a lot of things to say. You've issued a lot of fines. It's time for you to give a grade of this island, and I also need the total of all the fines because I refuse to do any math myself.
From what I've seen, Mochi is absolutely breathtaking, but there are quite a few safety concerns that we need to address. The fines I've issued come to 103,500 bells in total. I'd say that Mochi gets a grade of B. There's a lot of potential here, but also a good amount of room for improvement when it comes to safety.
You got a grade of B. Congratulations. That's not terrible. And with our first island safety fines appropriately tallied up, it's time to move on to our next island. All right. Wow. There's a lot of foliage, a lot of organic material around here. Did you make this flag yourself? It looks incredible. Okay, Digby, we are on the island of Nirvana. We noticed that there was a lot of wild wheat growing everywhere. We're kind of in the middle of just a really natural kind of area. This is really cool. There's a little pig pen with pigs grazing, and there's tomato plants and wheat plants and all kinds of stuff. They have their car. It looks like it's in really bad shape, but they have a toolbox here and a can of gasoline and everything. So it looks like they're fixing up their car just on their own property. I want to make it clear, Digby, this is private property. I was invited here though, so I'm not breaking any rules myself. So don't get all mad at me.
Ah, Nirvana. The name itself brings a sense of calm. The car situation is interesting indeed. You're right. It's on their private property, so it's a bit different.
Yeah.
However, keeping a car in a rundown condition, even on private property, can lead to hazardous situations.
Not if it's
If a child were to stumble upon the car and unintentionally trigger something, it could cause harm. This is in violation of our Class L private vehicle maintenance regulation. I'll have to issue a fine of 30,000 bells.
Oh my gosh.
You know what would be mighty refreshing right now? A hearty bowl of turnip dream gravy.
I made it very clear it was private property. Digby was not having it. Okay, so your house. Afraid I'm gonna have to start talking to Digby about this. Okay, Digby, well, I've decided to go inside the island owner's house. One thing I noticed kind of just scattered in the middle of the room were tickets for going on flights and stuff. I was invited here, so I didn't realize that they hadn't cleaned up. And I ended up in their bathroom, I think. Okay, I get it. So there's 3 tubs on one side, and the other side of the room, there's these little stalls, but instead of toilets, they just have these little buckets. I'm guessing you just kind of put on the slippers and you hover over the buckets, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm in what appears to be an eatery of some kind.
What a peculiar house layout indeed. I am a bit concerned about the scattered flight tickets.
Me too.
They could pose a tripping hazard, so that's a Class D tripping violation, which comes with a fine of 7,500 bells. As for the bathroom, using buckets instead of toilets, hygiene's super important, so I'd worry about any spillages or mishaps here. That could very much be a violation of the Class A sanitation policy, hence a 50,000 bells fine.
Ooh.
The room that appears to be an eatery needs to follow health and safety rules around food storage and display. Do I smell Dodo airline gravy?
Okay, well, in the back room, we have something really, really interesting. There's actually some sort of hand sanitizing competition that's taking place back here. There is one of those scales you stand on that kind of measures your height and your weight. In the back of the room are tables, lines of tables, where there are benches, bottles of hand sanitizer sitting there. And I think what happens is on the right side of the room, there's these lockers. And so you put your stuff in the lockers. And then what you do is you sit on the stool and, they say ready, set, go. And then you try and use the hand sanitizer as fast as you can. And whoever hand sanitizes their hands first the best wins, I think. I don't know. I might have seen this on TV sometime, but it's just amazing being in one of these competitions in real life.
It's a fun and creative concept, especially in these times, but we've got to ensure it's safe. Usage of hand sanitizers requires proper training. You can't just go squirting bottles willy-nilly, can you? It sounds silly, but we have a Class B overzealous sanitation violation for these potentially slippery situations. The fine sum for this is 12,000 bells. Do my eyes deceive me, or is there a hint of roasted dodo gravy over by the lockers?
Upstairs, we have, a dual bedroom situation. That's kind of cool. Wait a minute. What's going on here? All right, Digby, I have a weird one for you. I went upstairs, and it seems like there's 2 bedrooms upstairs. And on the right side, it looks like, relatively normal room. We got a bed, we got a desk for doing some work, we got a keyboard. The other bedroom, I'm a bit confused because, you got a bed and a table and an ottoman and a couch and a dresser. There's art on the wall, blah, blah, blah. The bed is surrounded by spotlights. I don't know if this is some sort of fancy alarm clock or cruel joke or science experiment. Is there a camera? I don't see a camera. It's a tanning bed. This is a really sorry excuse for a tanning bed.
That is indeed an unusual setup. Spotlights surrounding a bed, you say?
Yeah.
This could potentially cause a Class A nocturnal lighting hazard if they're not controlled.
I know.
High-intensity lights, especially around a bed, could cause both physical discomfort and disturb sleep patterns. For this, I believe a fine of 75,000 bells would be quite reasonable. Wouldn't you agree?
Reasonable.
As I contemplate the strangeness of that setup, my mind drifts to the soothing taste of Celeste's Cosmos gravy.
Well, now we're outside again, Digby, and I've climbed up some stairs, and now I'm on a little forest path. And then I climb down some stairs, and there's a picnic with some gyroids having a picnic. And then there's even down here an arcade, like a full-blown arcade if I climb down some stairs again, with all kinds of those crane games. The ones that sometimes scam kids out of quarters, with gyroids just enjoying all kinds of games. We're walking by a parked car who's left its headlights on, unfortunately. Why would you say the kids get scammed? They do. In real life, those crane games are a total joke.
The gyroids seem to be enjoying the area quite a lot.
They are.
The arcade, though, that's fascinating. While it's undoubtedly a fun area, we need to make sure that all the games and crane machines are functioning properly to prevent any mishaps. As for the car left with the headlights on, it's not only a waste of battery, but if pointed in the wrong direction, could temporarily impair the vision of passersby, earning it a potential Class C moving hazard infringement fine of 15,000 bells. Phew! All this talking makes a dog thirsty. If only I had some Nook's Cranny gravy.
Speaking of Nook's Cranny, I'm outside there right now, Digby. Unfortunately, they are closed, so I can't get you any of that gravy you want. It looks like they are getting a big shipment of goods in right now. The truck has pulled up. There are boxes everywhere. It looks like Timmy and Tommy spent so much time trying to unload it that they went home for the day because they just couldn't finish unloading. And I've come upon a fish market, I think. It's a sign for a fish market, and then the garbage is really piled up over here, which is very unfortunate. I see a cockroach and some old flyers. Red's Imports. There's some crates from Red's Imports here and some rare art and artifacts in the middle of a cul-de-sac.
Nook's Cranny is usually a bustling place full of items and great deals. Seeing it closed with boxes everywhere is disappointing. A vehicle left unchecked and boxes on display can easily cause an obstruction, leading to a Class B static obstruction violation. And that's a fine of 10,000 bells right there. The fish market sign and trash here sound like they could use some cleaning up. I'm especially concerned about the piled up garbage and the cockroach. That's a potential health hazard right there, hence a Class A waste management breach. And that comes with a rather large fine of 50,000 bells.
Oh my gosh.
But a Red's Import crate with rare art and artifacts in a cul-de-sac? It's intriguing, but slightly worrisome from a safety standpoint. Could potentially be a Class D questionable goods placement violation. That's a penalty of 12,500 bells. Gosh, I don't know what's thirstier work, the inspection or tallying the fines. If only I had the refreshing taste of Brustoid gravy.
I describe things terribly. I'm just doing my best over here. I don't know what I'm getting hate for. The Red's Import sign is back, and it looks like a lot of stuff is here next to where Red would park his boat. It's a little bit suspicious. There seems to be a garage sale going on, and there's a lot of stuff here piled up in front of this house. It's piled up in a nice way. I shouldn't use the word piled up. It's very organized.
That mess could constitute a Class E pathway obstruction violation, costing them 10,000 bells. The Red's Import scene sounds a bit suspicious. We might have a Class F questionable dealing violation here. That's another 40,000 bells, I'm afraid. All this exploration's left me parched. I could really do with a fossil fizz gravy.
Okay, Digby, well, we've reached the end of our tour of the island of Nirvana, but before we go to our next island, we need to know from you what grade you're going to leave them with after hearing everything you've heard, and your fines were outrageous this time.
The total accumulated amount of fines comes to a whopping 112,500 bells. So after all that, I believe a fair grade for Nirvana would be a B. It's not an island without charm, but there are certainly areas we need to address moving forward in terms of safety. And to be perfectly honest, the thought of a big drink of ancient statue gravy might just be the only thing keeping me vertical at this point.
You got a B! Congratulations! So at this point, Mochi is still in the lead. But can the next island manage to change that? Well, the flag has like a radioactive symbol on it. Angel Eyes, how would you describe this island? If you had like a core theme, radioactive biopunk. Okay, there's a lot for me to describe here. The island is described as a radioactive biopunk island. The island itself really lives up to this standard. For example, behind resident services, there's this street and it's all cracked and stuff. And there's these old rickety looking abandoned buildings. There's streets that just kind of end in a dead end where they run right into a cliff. It definitely looks like the kind of place where if you were visiting, you'd probably want to have a Geiger counter on hand. You'll be happy to know that the stairs have these landings with these black and yellow lines, kind of like safety landings, you know? I know you probably have a lot to say about everything I just told you, but let me just caveat this by saying you need to respect the culture of this island. You can't just go issuing fines willy-nilly. What you see as a hazard is like the way of life of the people who live here. Let's see what he does with that.
A radioactive biopunk island of lone sounds intriguing and unique to say the least. I appreciate the safety landings on the stairs. That's indeed good thinking considering the possible fall risks in such an environment. Despite the dystopian atmosphere, it is crucial to maintain some basic safety procedures. The abrupt dead ends leading to cliffs, notably, could cause serious accidents. This looks like a Class G unexpected cliff ending violation, fetching a fine of 20,000 bells. But keeping in mind the unique culture and environment of this island, they are indeed managing quite well. I hope the radiation's kept in check, though.
It's Bunny Day season because a lot of the trees are pink and they have eggs hanging off of them. I'm on an overlook right now and I can see the museum tent. It is surrounded by bars, like jail bars, which is an interesting choice. Honestly, now that I'm here, the jail bars are an interesting choice, but I kind of feel safer. It feels like if I'm in the museum and something were to happen outside, like some kind of disaster, the bars could like close and keep everyone in nice and safe from, you know, whatever horrible things are happening outside in this radioactive town.
Celebrating Bunny Day amidst their unique lifestyle adds a cute touch, but we must remember not to leave Bunny Day eggs lying around as they could present a tripping hazard.
Oh.
An E9 Bunny Day egg placement violation, that is.
Oh.
A fine of 5,000 bells sounds appropriate. The museum tent's placement does seem peculiar, down in a ravine and surrounded by bars. Though unconventional, if it provides a sense of safety, then it may actually be a good thing. But we do encourage accessibility for all residents, so a fine of 10,000 bells for a Class Q accessibility issue might be warranted. To take the edge off, perhaps a refreshing swig of Pear's Delight gravy would hit the spot.
Pear gravy is just a smoothie, changed my mind. There are no eggs on the ground. He is making an assumption about the eggs. There's a car on the street right now that's kind of blocking my way, but I can scooch by it. You can find nooks. Out of all the islands I've ever been to, this is the most difficult nooks to get to, but there's nothing unsafe about it. It's just more of like an inconvenience.
Having cars and trucks blocking pathways might pose a risk as it restricts free movement. That seems like a Class F pathway obstruction violation, for which a fine of 15,000 bells is necessary. Regarding the difficult access to nooks, it's important to have easy access paths to businesses and shops. The Class R limited access to essential services violation might just come into play here with a fine of 25,000 bells.
Oh my gosh, it is time to grade this island. The islanders were really, really upset when you accused them of having eggs just thrown everywhere. But the eggs are in the trees. They're not on the paths, for example.
In totality, the fines today come to 40,000 bells. Considering the unique flavor of Lone, the clear theme they've gone for, and their attention to local fixtures and culture, it only feels right to award them a grade of A. Yes,
Wow.
We had a collection of safety points, but let's chalk some of that up to growing pains, shall we?
Congratulations. Not only did you get an A grade, you got a fine of 40,000 bells, which I believe is way less than what he was supposed to charge you. We're on to island number 4, and with how confusing and inconsistent Digby has been this entire time, it is literally anybody's game. All right, Digby, we're on the island of RedCrest. And speaking of red, the flag is actually a depiction of Taylor Swift's album cover for the album Red. We are greeted by a ton of adorable scenery. There's a whole bunch of presents for island visitors, like a lot of presents, like a frustrating amount of presents. But the presents contain different types of clothing items that I can wear to feel more a part of the culture here on the island of RedCrest.
A welcome featuring Taylor Swift's Red. How distinctive and timely. Offering presents to visitors is a sweet gesture, but indeed, a large pile could prove daunting. There's a concern about clutter in the pathway directly from arrival. That could count as a Class E pathway obstruction violation.
Uh-oh.
Respectfully, I'd recommend a 5,000 bells fine for that.
Oh, yikes.
All the clothes sound delightful.
I'm now standing outside Blair's house, and Blair has a little bakery and you're greeted by a little gyroid, and for some reason there's a litter box by the staircase. You can walk down the steps to a very exclusive beach with some beachside dining.
The litter box by the staircase seems a little out of place and could present a potential odor nuisance, or if not cleaned regularly, even a health concern. That's a Class 1 odor and sanitation violation. A 25,000 bells fine is in
Yikes.
order, I am afraid. But that beachside dining sounds so delightful.
There's a lot of outrage right now by the townspeople who live here. The litter box looked clean, so I don't know if that changes anything for you.
I'm relieved to hear the litter box is clean. Given the new information, I will rescind both fines and hopefully smooth over any ruffled feathers.
Oh.
Let's get back to inspecting.
Hey, isn't that nice? I didn't think he would do that either. I'm very impressed with him. He's very mature. So imagine you're at a house, you're about to visit, and you look over, and then in the distance is just dozens and dozens of presents. And then in front of another house, there's a snowman and then a bunch of presents. I don't know if everyone had a birthday on the same exact day or what's going on. And then you find yourself at Nook's Cranny in a very peculiar spot. You wouldn't expect it to be up here in the mountains, but here it is. And then behind the museum, it looks like an epic stage of some kind. It's really well lit, and it's the perfect place for someone to come in, and probably Taylor Swift, if we're being honest, and do some kind of performance for everyone on the island.
I see an overwhelming volume of presents littered about. While I
True.
understand it might be part of a celebration, we can't overlook the potential hazards. This could potentially lead to a Class E pathway obstruction violation, resulting in a fine of 12,000 bells. Having Nook's Cranny and the museum up in the mountains does sound peculiar, but it could offer unique views for visitors. The stage at the back of the museum sounds perfect for concerts. I do hope it's inspected regularly for safety. My throat's feeling as dry as a bonfire gravy without water. If only I had a Danley cup to drink from. Did I just say Danley cup? Those things are a disaster waiting to happen. Please, if you know what's good for you, never bring up the Danley cup.
Okay. I was getting ready to go to the other side of the island, and I wanted you to know that I got a little lost. And one of the townspeople told me that this place is easy to navigate, and I feel like they're gaslighting me. I don't know. I don't think that's a safety thing. I just think it's kind of mean. I might need a raise after this.
I appreciate your perseverance on our behalf, even when it gets tough.
Oh, well, thanks, Digby. I did make it eventually. Don't appreciate how you just completely ignored my subtle hint at a raise, but whatever. I can't get up here no matter what I do. I don't know what to do. I can't... Oh, wait. I found it. Looks like there's a few people who live here. It looks like some kind of field for some kind of obscure sport is behind the houses. The people who live up here, because it takes like a hidden ladder, maybe they're just kind of stuck up here. They had to like make up their own sport for entertainment. Anyway, I'm going to go inside their house now. Oh, this is
A hidden ladder leading to yet another part of the island? It does sound adventurous, but it could also be a cause of concern if it's the only access point for the residents. That could be considered a Class H inaccessible residential area violation.
Uh-oh.
It's a consequential fine of 25,000 bells,
Yikes.
unfortunately.
They have vaulting poles? Oh, I can let them know. I was just told by one of the residents that they actually have vaulting poles too. So there's hidden ladders and vaulting poles so they can get across the rivers to get over to this residential area too. So, by the way, their house is incredible. I have no other description other than just incredible.
Oh, I see. Vaulting poles would certainly make it much easier for the residents to access their homes. That
dangerous at
completely
all.
changes things. Assuming they're responsibly stored, we can safely dismiss the previously mentioned violation.
Hey!
I'm glad you found their house incredible.
I don't get how vaulting pole... I thought you were going to get fined for the vaulting poles for sure. Okay, Digby, well, you've heard about the whole island now. It's time to tell us the letter grade that you're going to give this island.
Dear residents and guests of RedCrest, my final safety assessment has arrived. After taking into account all the explanations and clarifications about the residents' ingenious ways to move around, the only fine left outstanding was 12,000 bells for a previous pathway obstruction violation. I award RedCrest a solid A for their efforts.
Oh, wow.
And now that's done, I have a deep yearning for some squid shine gravy.
There you go. Congratulations on an A grade and the lowest amount of fines of any island so far. With RedCrest well in the lead, it's becoming clear that Digby's thirst for gravy is starting to distract him. Will Digby just pass out from thirst and give the win to RedCrest by default, or will this next island change things? Okay, Flex's Zoo. And this is just such a nice place. Oh my gosh. I'm seeing some presents here, but they're not wrapped, which saves me time. So I'm very appreciative of this. I am dressed like a little explorer and I have food that I can feed the animals, and I'm standing next to a sign that says wild animals beyond this point. I certainly do not get paid enough to do what I'm about to do, but I have to explore the zoo beyond this point. I'm just gonna walk in here and I'm gonna do it. And I'm at a flamingo exhibit. What's interesting is somebody lives with the flamingos. Maybe it's the caretaker of the flamingos, I'm not sure. But the gate is open, so I could go in there and pet them. Do you think I should do that?
Oh my, a full zoo. That certainly takes the term Animal Crossing to a whole new level. It sounds like a lot of fun, but also nerve-wracking with all these wild animals. The flamingo exhibit sounds pleasant. As for going in and petting them, I would advise against it. It's best to admire them from a safe distance to avoid any possible pink feathered reaction violation.
I found a pig exhibit, and they're so cute. Can I please go feed them? The gate is wide open.
Piggies can indeed be absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
Even so, interacting with animals within exhibits can make unpredictable situations. While I understand the temptation, I'd have to advise against it. If you happen to disregard this advice, it might count as a B-oink proximity violation that comes with an unexpected fine of 10,000 bells.
So if I violate the rule, it'll cost you a $10,000 fine. Okay, I'm just gonna let you know that I'm not violating the rule, so no need for a 10,000 bell fine. Oh, it looks like there's a birthday party going on. I went down some stairs, and by the beach here, we have a birthday party. And then just by the birthday party is a dinosaur exhibit. I'm not kidding. I was wrong. It's not a dinosaur exhibit. It's a Godzilla exhibit. A literal Godzilla exhibit. There are four Godzillas in this big Godzilla pen.
A birthday spot next to a Godzilla exhibit. What an intriguing combination. As much as it sounds amazing, I do hope ample safety measures have been taken around the Godzilla pen to ensure visitors can't accidentally get too close. That would be a Class Z giant monster interference violation carrying a fine of 30,000 bells.
Yikes. I just want to be clear, it's not possible to get too close to those Godzillas, okay? So I don't want you to count that as a violation now, Digby. That would be kind of unfair. I found a tiger exhibit. It says beware of tiger. Not only are there giant jail bars separating me from the tigers, but there's also a moat. May I please find a way inside the pen and feed them?
It's great to hear they've put considerable safety measures in place with the jail bars and a moat. Well done on that. However, as cute as the baby tiggies may be, we must remember that they are indeed wild animals. Feeding them could lead to them becoming less wary of humans, which can lead to dangerous encounters.
They're already in a zoo.
So I'm afraid that would involve a T-striped encounter allocation violation.
Well, don't worry. You don't need to issue that fine because I can't get in there anyway. But I just want to point out the tigers are already in a zoo, so they're already pretty used to humans feeding them. I think you're overthinking this. I was even given food so that I could feed animals, and you haven't let me feed a single animal, you jerk. I now want to point you in the direction of the frog beach. There are frogs everywhere. They're playing frog volleyball. They are in the shape of chairs. There's frog chairs. There's frog souvenirs. There's frogs everywhere. And the reason I'm able to go up to them and feed them finally is because they're not in a pen of any kind. They're free roam, free range frogs. And I think they're here to cheer up the guests when they get sad that people like you don't let them feed the tigers.
A frog's beach, that does sound uniquely fascinating.
It is.
The tadpoles, frog volleyball, frog chairs, and the free roaming frogs are an interesting concept and could make guests feel more engaged. But disrupting their habitat too much could lead to a F-amphibian environment disruption violation. Imagine sipping from a mermaid shoal gravy.
Digby needs a cup of water. I think he prefers gravy. All right, let's real quick run through these other exhibits that I'm seeing. There is duck food. There's a little duck food stall and wild ducks roaming around, so we can feed the ducks. I'm gonna go ahead and do that for a second because I haven't been able to feed anything on this trip. And then there's a panda exhibit. It is very safe. There's a sign which says don't climb the fence. There's a penguin exhibit in the distance. It looks adorable. The gate is open. It says please don't climb a fence, but we could walk in there and feed the penguins if we wanted to. I know you're probably gonna tell me not to, so I won't. In the distance I see a turtle exhibit where you can walk up to the turtles and pet them, it seems. There's another exhibit where you can't climb the fence, although there is a way inside if you wanted to, and it looks like it's a mole exhibit. I'm seeing a little mole in the distance. There's also another exhibit where you're not supposed to climb the fence, and it looks like it's a scorpion exhibit. Yes, scorpions, tarantulas. Oh, and there's a place to buy some honey. There's bees. They're selling bee farts in a jar, it looks like. I see a jar of bee farts. I'm not sure what that's all about. We'll need to go down on the beach and see if we can pet those turtles.
This place is a proper menagerie, living up to its name indeed. The suggestion to not climb the fences is an excellent safety measure. The jar of bee farts, though, that's something I never thought I'd hear about. It's definitely an interesting product offering.
Well, if you want, I can buy you a jar of beef farts and you could maybe drink those. Maybe there's beef fart gravy. Would that be of interest to you?
That's an offer I never thought I'd get. As tempting as a jar of beef farts sounds, I'll stick to dreaming about my beloved Animal Crossing themed gravy. To each their own, as they say.
I'm now at the Turtle Beach, and there's all kinds of sea creatures over here, including the little sea turtles. Because they're just hanging out here on the beach, you can actually have a seat on one of their shells and enjoy feeding the other sea turtles from your sea turtle throne.
While having a seat on one of the shells and feeding might seem splendid, it's important not to disturb their natural behavior.
Oh.
It could lead to a T-ocean turbulence violation.
It is now time to grade the island of Menagerie. Not only do we need a grade, we need to know the total amount of fines. You gave a lot of theoretical fines if things were indeed amiss, so I don't know where we left off with that. What are you thinking?
Despite the potential for safety concerns, Menagerie showed an exemplary commitment to providing a thorough and enjoyable zoo experience.
Okay.
In terms of fines, we do have one pathway obstruction citation, which I'll cut down to 5,000 bells given the festive spirit and
Generous.
the otherwise good management of the island. Therefore, I bestow upon Menagerie a grade of A.
Wow. Congratulations. You have an A and only 5,000 bells. And with that, somehow, Menagerie is the winner. Digby's fines throughout this tour were mostly theoretical, so in the end, I think the lack of gravy just became too much for his poor, thirsty AI brain. This means there's only one thing we can do. All right, Digby, well, I have a surprise for you. We've been all listening to you talk about how thirsty you are for gravy, so I thought it would be really cool if we all chipped in and got you a super swanky, super expensive, your very own Danley cup. What do you have to say?
I can't believe you've done this. Those cups, they are a safety nightmare. The odds of chipping a tooth on it or spillage leading to accidental slips, I just can't risk it.
We all chipped in on this. What gives? Why don't you like the Danley cup?
You see, it's misshapen for drinking, might tip over, could be too heavy. It's a nightmare for a safety enthusiast like me. And truth be told, one time I saw someone drink from a Stanley